This video is an accompaniment to my Lucky Dots baby blanket pattern that's available on Ravelry. I heard from a knitter who's working on it, and she's starting the first section, which is called Slip Stitch Dots. It is a stitch pattern that's used around the entire perimeter of the blanket, and she was having some trouble figuring it out and getting it to work out. So I'm making this video based on that request, and I'm uploading it to YouTube in case other knitters find this stitch to be a little challenging. So let's take a look at it. So the slip stitch dots pattern is essentially 2-row stripe of contrasting colors in garter stitch, and every couple of stitches you're lifting up a stitch from 3 rows below and twisting it. So let me show you how that works, and that's what actually kind of breaks up the stripes. Otherwise this would just be stripes like you can see here at the top. I've got a stripe of white garter and a stripe of this kind of purpley garter, and all of these rows are exactly the same, except once I work the next row on top, we're going to pull up some white stitches, and that breaks it up and actually creates the dot pattern. So let me show you how that works. So now I'm getting ready to work the cream again. Let me get this started with my selvage stitch. And I'm simply going to work the first stitch as a knit. So now I'm ready to pick up a stitch from the row below. As you can see, we're going back and forth. So the twisted stitches are kind of spread out instead of stacked in nice neat columns. They alternate back and forth. So this is where I'm going to pick up a stitch from the row below. So what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for the cream colored yarn that matches my working yarn. You're always going to be looking for the same color as your working yarn when you're trying to lift up and twist this stitch. So this is the stitch column that I'm looking at right now, okay? So what I want to do is I want to go down to the white yarn, that's the same as the working yarn. I'm going to pick up the purl bump from 3 rows below. Now what's important here to note is you want to pick up the purl bump, which is the umbrella right there. You do not want to pick up the bowls, which are the curves that go down. You're picking up an up curve that looks like a little umbrella. If you were to pick up the little bowl curves, those are actually the yarn bar in between stitches. The umbrella curve is the purl bump that you're looking for. So insert your right hand needle through that purl bump from the top to the bottom. You see how I'm picking that up? You always want to pick it up in the same way. I'll show you again. So from the top of that little umbrella to the bottom, or you're going to pick it up and you just ignore it now. Take your working yarn, knit that next stitch, and then you're going to pass that lifted stitch over the worked stitch, and you can see that that is what twists it. Knit the next stitch normal, then it's time for another lifted stitch. Look for that little umbrella that's the same color as our working yarn. So little white umbrella, I'm going to pick it up from top to bottom, lift it up on my needle, and ignore it for a second. Knit the next stitch, then I'm going to pick up that lifted stitch and just pull it over the worked stitch. Can you see how now I have those little twisted stitches? Let's do a couple more. So I'm looking for the little white umbrella below the stitch, the next stitch on my left needle. So straight down, there's my little umbrella. Pick it up from top to bottom, set it aside and ignore it a second. Knit the next stitch, then come back and lift that stitch, pass it over the worked stitch. Let's do one more. looking for that little white umbrella, that little purl bump. Pick it up from top to bottom. Ignore it while you knit the next stitch, and then just lift it and pass it over. Can you see how that now is breaking up what originally was that purplish stripe? And that is precisely how you do the slip stitch dots. I hope this helps. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.